William Lawrence is a professor of political science at American University, and he joins me now from Washington, D.C. Professor, this is a familiar playbook for Putin in Ukraine. He did the same thing with Crimea in 2014. What does this likely mean for the war if and when Putin announces the annexation of these areas of Ukraine?
Well, Putin is trying to have won something when this war comes to an end. So if he can increase his stake in Ukraine by 15%, having traumatized these populations, killed at least 5,000 civilians, and perhaps thousands more, according to the UN testimony today, then he can declare some sort of victory. But it's at a very high cost. The international reputation of Russia's in the tank. Over 100 countries, not just the West, are supporting Ukraine at the United Nations. Look at the Security Council today. Kenya, the other non-Western members, had very important things to say about Ukrainian sovereignty. Even China, which named Ukraine as having sovereign rights, was important. And China had an important, strong relationship with Ukraine before the war. So we can't say the war is winding to a close by any stretch of the imagination. But this is Putin losing territory, not just in the north, but in the south, and trying to declare victory somewhere before his forces are pushed back even further and before this new mobilization may take place.
We've also heard a new threat from Russia of nuclear weapons. Do you think these referendum results, even though the West does not consider them legitimate, make that threat more likely?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because this is now Russian territory according to Russia, and they're not going to take no for an answer. But no, because, and this came out today with the long interview that the former head of the CIA Brennan gave, that the cost for for Putin domestically in Russia and in his close region with some of his allies of deploying nuclear weapons would be so high that he's unlikely to do it. So what he's saying is, I will fight as hard as I can to keep these annexed occupied territories. But the odds of him using nuclear weapons, I felt from the beginning, were quite low. Instead, what we see is nuclear blackmail, the use of nuclear weapons to seize other countries' territory and then put a nuclear umbrella over them, which is a terrible precedent for the United Nations.
What kind of Western response do you think we'll likely see from these referendums, and also if and when Putin announces the annexation of these territories? Do you think we'll see more sanctions? Because nothing really seems to have worked so far to stop him and his efforts in Ukraine. What tools does the West have left to leverage?
Many sanctions can continue to be extended. Sanctions that were put on dozens can be put on hundreds. Sanctions that were put on hundreds can be put on thousands. There are all kinds of further sanctions on companies and Russian entities and those that deal with Russian entities. There can be further support for Europe weaning itself of dependence on Russia oil and gas. There's many things that the West can do, and I think with the new nuclear talk and the red lines that Putin is drawing, the West is going to begin to draw red lines as well. If you look at Biden and his National Security Advisor Sullivan's interviews on Sunday, they were basically saying absolutely no about the nuclear blackmail, a type of rhetoric I hadn't seen before. Biden kept saying, don't do it. And so if we even see a mobilization towards the use of nuclear weapons or negative actions around the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. We could even see a Western intervention here, again, signaling to Putin that he can no longer use nuclear blackmail of both varieties to seize territory in neighboring countries.
All right, Professor William Lawrence in Washington, thank you again.